Hello everyone and welcome to another rapid fire review, this time for the action RPG, the First Berserker Khazan. This is the first game of this type from Neeple, who are best known for Dungeon Fighter Online. It's one of the most played and highest grossing video games of all time. It's got 850 million players and like $22+ billion in lifetime revenue. They're a big deal, but this is the first time they've made anything in this space. After first seeing the trailers for Kazan, it became one of my most anticipated games of 2025. The early trailers showed a crisp and fast-paced combat system, a simple but effective art style, and all manners of crazy boss fights. And this is exactly what Neeple delivered. Because this is the first game of this type from the developer, Kazan borrows pretty heavily from games that came before it. Of course, it has quite a bit in common with previous Souls and Souls-likes, but the Nioh series feels like a better comparison. And while, in my opinion, it never really reaches the insane highs of Nioh, it still feels great.
Okay, for realsies!
Surrender.
Oh fuck, I forgot my weapons! Wait, time out!
All of it gone.
I forgot my weapons on that one. It's very crucial to bring your weapons.
The combat system is just about as fast-paced, finely tuned, and customizable as I would have hoped. You have the standard swift and heavy attacks to create basic combinations, as well as several weapon skills to add powerful attacks to these combos.
What? Okay, I didn't know that was...
I always help OJ.
Oh shit! I know those
Yeah,
fucking
don't.
wrestling moves.
The points for the skill tree where you can find them can also be reassigned at will, so on-the-fly customization is available and encouraged, which I greatly appreciated. For further customization, there are quite a few armor sets with unique passives as well as customizable stat lines, so you can decide on what you're focusing on, favoring stamina damage maybe, or raw damage, or defense. The loot is plentiful, and with the customization systems that unlock about halfway into the game, you can swap stats, upgrade armor levels, or just craft brand new stuff that you've unlocked. The weapons themselves, unfortunately, are all the same within their type. They all have the same scaling and base movesets. The only real difference is the specific sets that they may or may not belong to. It almost feels like the weapon system was just not quite finished for the launch. I would have expected to see at least slight variation in weapon scaling between sets and playstyles, but I did feel like I had enough control over how combat flowed through other means that I didn't mind too much. It just would have slightly helped with replayability. One thing I did mind was my stamina depleting for sprinting outside of combat. It's a crazy, magical world that this game is set in. We can simply pretend that our netherworld enhanced super general protagonist has good cardio, can't we?
Yeah. Fuck! I thought it was that way.
I would watch out for the, For performance, Kazan is one of the most optimized games I've played in recent memory. In over 70 hours of playing and recording simultaneously, I had one single slowdown where I dropped frames. It was only for about 3 seconds, and I'm willing to bet it was 100% OBS's fault. The game also loads incredibly fast, which is good because in order to travel around the maps from point to point, you must first go back to the main hub, then select which point you want to travel to. The story for Kazan is pretty standard for the genre, which means it's kinda basic, but serviceable. I've really never expected to be blown away with the story or dialogue in these games. For me, the gameplay is paramount, but still there is some room for improvement. In the end, it's a revenge story. We need to figure out who betrayed us, and we get the all-too-common modern trope of some otherworldly being finding us and giving us otherworldly powers and being our guide through the game. This time, it's a talking phantom sword guy imbuing us with otherworldly powers. You know, instead of a bracelet imbuing us with powers, or a talking gun imbuing us with powers. But now that we are together, and with our powers combined, we can kill absolutely everyone. There are plenty of side missions and characters to meet alongside the main story that are woven throughout the experience, but again, it's mostly just basic stuff. And actually, much of it feels kind of separated from the main story mission. You know, some of these side missions, you'll have some pretty major acquisitions or reveals, and no one mentions them at all. And these are definitely things that you would absolutely talk about. The art style may be simple, but for the most part it looks great. The environments are interesting and varied, and there's even a giant poison swamp, which I know everybody loves. Exploration is rewarded with all sorts of goodies to find. You have jars for sweet, sweet helmets. You can acquire vengeance points for massive damage upgrades, weapons and armor set recipes, and soul stones for increased healing and spirit resource points. They put a lot of effort into the music for the game, and some of it is really good, and it really elevates some of these boss fights. If you're feeling reluctant jumping into an hardcore action RPG, know that there's an easy mode, and that's not common for these types of games.
Ah! I was like, why is it not working? I had it. Let's delete that from everyone's memory.
Just be careful. Once you swap to easy, you cannot swap back, and then you'll miss out on standard difficulty achievements and some other stuff. As for enemy variety, there are more enemy types in a single region of Kazan than in all of Lords of the Fallen put together. And with that variety means that there are that many enemies to learn the movesets for. Now, fortunately, most of it's going to be intuitive, especially from the trashier mobs. But, as always in these games, there's some really sneaky off-speed moves to keep you paying attention. There's also a pretty large variety of elite mobs, some of which are about as nasty as the story bosses, especially when they come in pairs. As for the story bosses, I think for the first half of the game, I was absolutely loving the boss fights. The bosses presented a challenge that I wanted. They have high hit points, they do have some telegraph moves, and of course, the ones that are so comically off speed that they border on the ridiculous. But with a little learning and making sure your gear is set, I think most people who are up for the challenge are going to enjoy it. About the halfway point, though, I feel there's going to be a disagreement from the fans on the quality of some of the bosses. It's around here we start to see the running away mage bosses, or a lady with infinite great shield blocking, and a big stupid dragon boss who decides when you can hit him in his head. Now, these fights aren't any more difficult than the other fights, they're just kind of annoying. And for me, they didn't give me that sense of satisfaction from overcoming the challenge. I just was relieved that the chore was over. And they did feel like chores. It's a shame because here in Kazan, we were given one of the better combat systems in recent memory. And instead of using it, I'm kind of just standing in place, waiting for a casting idiot or a big dragon to allow me to get close enough to attack it. Fortunately, the final boss was a little better than that. I do feel that he was pretty good. Some aspects from his fight are great, and depending on the AI's move choices, we can get into the solid flow of combat, and it can be a really great experience. But there are going to be other times where he likes to float up, or fly away, or backstep all of your attacks, and just be a casting butthole for a while before deciding to come back down. The final boss is tough at the start with his huge list of potential moves and timings, but it's very learnable. Beating him was a challenge. I think he's probably the toughest boss in the game. But once he's dead, you unlock a stronger tier of equipment, and with that upgrade, it becomes pretty easy to murder him over and over, so you can farm his gear, and maybe get a little revenge. In fact, all of the bosses can be refought and farmed to your heart's content. Plus, if you need a hit of dopamine later in the game after fruitlessly chasing an idiot mage, you can always go back and absolutely obliterate Viper for fun. There's also a New Game Plus and New Game Plus Plus system, but then it just kind of ends, which seems odd to me. Though with only 3 weapon types and no differences between the weapons in each class, you certainly wouldn't need much more than that to get the full experience for the game. Though if you're like me, you're going to need that New Game Plus to get the collectibles and achievements you missed because they were bugged the first time. I like to do all the side missions and collect all the little things and unlock the armor sets, and it was incredibly frustrating to be missing several because of bugs. I would pick up recipes and have them poof from my inventory, and then the blacksmith couldn't make them. Many of my challenges couldn't be completed. I would satisfy the conditions, and they wouldn't be flagged as done and couldn't get the rewards, including armor recipes for stuff that I needed. I've been reading that even with the New Game Plus and New Game Plus Plus, it's possible to entirely miss out on achievements and items, which doesn't sound great. All that aside, overall, I am incredibly impressed with how Neeple did their first go for this type of single-player game. The combat is stellar, it looks great, it runs even better, and it's got great music and ambiance. I would say that this is going to give people at least 30 to 60 hours of content for a run, depending on how much you do or how much you die, and that's even before the New Game Plus. I'm going to give the First Berserker Khazan an 8 out of 10. It's a great game at $60, with plenty of content. Just got some bugs and a few things to smooth over. Right now, it's still a great time to be a fan of Souls-likes and Neo-likes. On top of the old guard developers, Neeple is another new player in the space that even on their first time are putting out insanely high-quality titles. I'm greatly looking forward to the free Kazan DLC in May, and for their next game. Thank you so much for watching this rapid-fire review, and we shall see you next time on the next Angry Joe Show.
Fuck is that? No! No! That was some bullshit! What the
Why'd you
fuck
stand
was
in it?
that?
Why did
I
you
was getting
stand in it?
slowed down. I was trying to
Yeah, you-
run. He
Just
slowed.
keep dodging. Just keep dodging.
No! Stupid new attack!